Hello, this video is called Media War Holocaust and Genocide Equality of Principle. Why do I say equality of principle? Because fundamentally I believe that genocide is wrong, and that all people have a right to self-determination. There have been people in the past, such as maybe the Spartans or other people who've actually themselves through their own perverse culture have destroyed themselves. If you take the systematic abuse of people within Spartan culture, which led to their own demise. Also, some cultures, particularly cultures who believe in their inherent superiority, have actually been proven not to have survived. Such cultures as the Ashanti, the process which is going on now in South Africa with the Zulu, and also, of course, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. All of those failed eventually. And the process between the Normans and the English, with the Normans who believed they were inherently superior, are also failing. That battle is also going on. Now, what we must make a distinction between is the nation and organised crime. There is inherent organised crime in every society. There may be examples in the world that I'm not familiar with, but what we must make sure about is that we recognise organised crime where it is. Organised crime is not just violence, but it also has lobbying. And we must look at this, particularly in the Anglo-Saxon culture and the Jewish culture. Right? I am Anglo-Saxon, I am Anglo-Celtic, and we have a particular problem in our society about organised crime because we don't recognise it as being divorced from the nation, although we are its first victims. Also, the Israelis have a similar problem. An Israeli lobby and also the Saudi lobby in America is extremely strong. It's so strong and there's such a grip on Israel and America's policy that in fact people who are Jews who do not agree with Zionist chauvinist militarism are not even allowed to settle in Israel. This, to me, even from an outside perspective, is wrong. Okay? Jews may say, who are Zionists may say, what right have I as an Anglo-Saxon to criticise or say anything about the Jewish question of their religion or who they should allow to settle in Israel? Well, I might retort as well and also ask a question. What right do Zionists have to tell other people that their cases of genocide are not to be remembered? Right? Fundamentally, the right to memorial of victims of genocide must be equal among all peoples. When Jews who are Zionists go to Ukraine and say, don't talk about your genocide, even though the Ukrainians suffered 30 million people murdered by the Soviets, because it detracts from our genocide committed by the Nazis. Or let us take into account the 120 million, maybe 200 million people killed by communism in this last century, and that massacre in China is still going on. Or let's take the millions of people killed by capitalism through the slave trade, or the slave trade in Africa that happened before European involvement, which involved Jews and Arabs taking black African slaves who were provided by black African leaders, Bantu leaders specifically. This was before even the Bantu moved into South Africa. Now, in 1652, the Boers arrived, who were Dutch speakers, arrived in South Africa. and later Bantu black Africans arrived in South Africa. Now the Bantu are in the process of exterminating Boer people. Now, you would think that Zionists would understand, having given their common experience of genocide being committed against them, would understand this. Well, certainly humanist Jews did, because humanist Jews of the Vienna tradition of Jewish humanism are the product themselves of an earlier genocide. During the Wars of Reformation in Germany, Jewish leaders were forced, or chose to provide, funding to both sides of the conflict between Protestants and Catholics. Protestants and Catholics, in turn, chose to try and massacre each other as heretics. This destroyed 50% of Germany's population. Thus, Germans who wanted to stay neutral converted to Judaism and intermarried with fundamentalist Jews. But by doing this, they converted those fundamentalist Jews to Jewish humanism. Now, isn't it strange that, given that Israel is a common religious community, although with many different sects, just as there are within Christianity and Islam, there are many different sects of religious belief. But isn't it fundamentally a division themselves, maybe even a racial division between the left-wing Jews and right-wing Zionist-end-timers? Now, when I speak here about Zionism, I'm speaking specifically about the end-timers and the right-wing Licudites in Israel. Your laws are not universal to every other people. The use of logic to try and suppose that something exists which cannot be proven by science is mysticism. And by just going around in a destructive circle, harming yourselves and harming other people in the process, is without the component of faith, is simply suicidal nihilism. Whereas humanist Jews of the Vienna tradition have understood this and understood the need for adopting rational Western concepts into the religion themselves, Zionist-end-timers have not done that. You are talking in terms, particularly Rabbi Taz, of trying to say, oh, when we destroy the world finally through our actions, and God redeems us, then how we shall laugh. This is something that has come straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. It's not something that I have made up. It is evidently out into the public sphere. This to me sounds like insanity, because you're trying to destroy, to redeem your past sins, and so therefore you only carry on doing evil. How can it help your cause to deny other people the right to say that they have suffered genocide? Surely the principle is that genocide is wrong, whoever it happens to, and that is an equal principle, as we all have equal worth as individual human beings. You have mistook the whole idea that struggle and the Holocaust itself is your religion. When a Holocaust survivor's great-great-granddaughter says, when confronted at Auschwitz by an Israeli cameraman who said, "But all those people are dead, do you still want vengeance?" She says, "Yes, but they have great-great-great-grandchildren." Then you're talking about immoral revenge, and that's not right, because you're just going to make a situation where genocide will happen to another people, and that cannot be right. Now, when the European Union goes to Israel and says, we want a customs union, and use the European Union as a model for conflict resolution, take that chance. It's your only hope.